everyone. Welcome back to the Casa and welcome back to First Impression Friday. As a reminder, I'm Mandy Lee. I'm one half of Casa Fortis. We do all kinds of fun things. Today, we're playing Keepers of Astraela. Astraela. I think it's Astraela. Let me take a look at the Steam page and tell you what that says. So it says a dark fantasy, a tome visual novel that follows a writer whose characters come to life. Join Eva as she fights against the forces of darkness, flirts with a fiery man, and wrestles with her inner darkness. It's O-tome, I'm not sure what that is. Interactive fiction, has a female protagonist. Dark fantasy, story-rich, dark comedy, atmospheric, lore-rich, it's magic, adventure. It does say it's a dating sim, which is not usually my thing, but this one looked interesting. So I'm actually really excited to play. Let's go ahead and dive in and see what it's got in store for us. I really like the look of this. I think it's really pretty. Also, peep the Christmas tree. Clearly I film ahead. By the time you see this, it will not be Christmas anymore. Let's go ahead and, let's check our preferences. Oh, can we just do friendship? Oh, so it doesn't have to be a dating sim. Okay. Cool. That's actually really fun. I'm going to leave it on romance because that's how it's intended to be played. You don't have to. You can choose to only have one romance option or no romance options. I actually think that's really cool. You can adjust your screen, skip text, that's all kind of the same. Okay, cool. Extras. Galleries, music, achievements. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. Some days make you feel like you're on top of the world. Others hit you like 9 hardcover novels to the face. Literally. One moment, I've ensured perfect balance on a rickety folding chair in the Havenwood Public Library study room, defying gravity itself as I pull a series of fantasy novels from the highest shelf. The next, all 9 volumes flew at my face. Before I know it, I'm tumbling to the ground with a thud. As I lay sprawled on the ground with my favorite childhood books splayed around my head, I meet the concerned gaze of a 10-year-old boy hovering over me. I want to tell him the novels are enchanted by the malicious wizard in their pages, or perhaps I can blame the fumble on klutzy jeans and a fair amount of bad luck. Anything to cover up the embarrassing truth of dropping the stack whilst lost in a vivid daydream. Miss Hale? The boy puts his hands on his knees as he bends down to examine my non-existent wounds. Are you all right? Should I call an ambulance? No. I sit up frantically and wince at the sharp pain sparking from my tailbone. I just got a woozy, that's all. Turning to face the disaster of half-opened books, I shove each one into the boy's cardboard box before handing it back to him. He blinks in surprise at the weight in his hands. Isn't that kind of serious? The way he stares into my soul tells me he won't give up on the subject anytime soon. In fact, he's certain to return in 2 months, buried in late fees that he'll attempt to pay off with the last 2 quarters from his allowance, and question my well-being again while I override the computer so he can return the books at no cost. It's an eternal merry-go-round of debt and bartering, one I can't help but forgive. I rack my brain for an excuse. Just a blood sugar thing. Nothing to worry about. For a moment, I'm convinced the young boy will stare me down until the library closes. His eyes laser into mine intently for the longest time before he nods, seemingly satisfied with the fibbed response. After looking back down at his latest literary treasure trove with a sparkling grin, he spins around and jaunts toward the circulation decks with a box almost bigger than himself. I can't help but chuckle. The hushed tones of the library return as I stand, patting down my head to catch the flyaways that slipped from my French twist in the fall. Ooh, why would you wear a French twist? Whatever. I tuck the strands behind my ear and pray no one will notice before I can scurry into the bathroom and secure them once more. I don't think anyone would be. You're a librarian. Chill. Trudging back down the aisle, I return where I abandoned my library cart to help the boy retrieve his desired books. A stack of brand new editions stare back, taunting me with their new book smell and unbent dust jackets. It's been months since we've gotten clearance to buy a shipment this large. But while the thought of fresh reading material fills me with excitement, the task of putting each volume on the shelf is far from my cup of tea. Not right now, nor this morning, and certainly not the entire past week, which is why 2 carts have remained behind the circulation desk until the last possible moment, untouched, collecting dust. Mindless shelving makes me sneer on a good day, let alone when I'd much rather be doing something else. And on a good day, with my brain working in proper order, I would have heard the footsteps approaching as I grabbed the cart handle. Blood sugar thing? The teasing voice nearly jolts me out of my skin. I whip around and find myself staring up at a tall man whose arms are crammed with 2 cups of coffee and a box of fresh donut holes. His hazel eyes brim with mischief. Looks like I brought the right stuff. He nods at the pastry box balanced precariously between his elbow and chest. Good Lord, Jensen, I smack his arm. Don't give me a heart attack. Not unless you want to put these books away after my funeral. He wrinkles his nose. Yeah, no. I've still got the second cart to label. Then I'd suggest you get to it. Ooh, that squeal. I yank the cart's handle, filling the once still air with its incessant squeaky wheels. A clattering noise brings my gaze down to find the metal folding chair blocking my path. Don't tell me you were standing on that death trap. Jensen kicks the chair aside. One of us almost snapping their neck on that thing is blah, blah. One of us almost smacks. Y'all, words are hard. One of us almost snapping their neck on that thing is enough. The thought of his similar spill makes me grimace. He hadn't been working at the library for more than a week when the head librarian shipped him off to the romance nook to fix an overhead lamp, assuring me it was a simple enough task for him to accomplish by himself. 5 minutes later, the entire place heard him take flight, slam full force into a shelf, and bring dozens of harlequins crashing down with him. I try to shake the memory. How did you not break your neck? I drink my milk. Jensen lifts the smaller coffee cup to his lips to conceal a devilish grin. Good for you. At least all I'm walking away with is a sore tailbone and a bruised ego. You could have used a stepladder from the maintenance room. 6 months working together, and you expect me to drag my butt to the other end of the building? I think not. When I back my cart past him, his broad shoulders shake in a silent laugh. I shake my head, twisting the cart around and pushing it out of the study room, only to hear the soft padding of his footsteps not far behind. Aside from the sound of our shoes tapping the carpet and the rhythmic squeal of the ancient book cart, the library is near silent. On the average evening, small groups of the local church would be sipping coffee in the back conference room, or a handful of teenagers would mill about to chat with their study pals in hushed voices. Or my personal favorite, the occasional lost husband asking for computer access while his wife peruses the romance section, sneaking another chapter of 50 Shades of Grey from behind the tallest bookshelf. People watching has become my favorite pastime in my years at the library. In the calm atmosphere, the hushed tones and ample creativity, boosting scenarios from patrons create the perfect setting for a writer's brain to thrive. Behind the circulation desk, it's too easy to pull open a document and spend slower days lost in my imagination, enabling me to spawn 4 self-published novels, with the final one waiting to be finished. My lips feel weird. Too much talking. The only distraction hindering me from writing at an even quicker pace saunters past me to kick open the swinging door of the circulation desk, holding it open with one leg for me to push the cart through. Jensen is the surprise I didn't think I wanted, but never knew just how much I needed. They were out of pumpkin spice. He sets his armful of coffee and baked goods between our computers. Hopefully a French vanilla cappuccino will suffice. I'll drink motor oil if you add enough dirty beans to it. I grab my cup the moment it hits the desk and take a careful sip. Sweet notes of vanilla meld with the bitter drink and light my brain with caffeine-induced pleasure. Making myself at home in my rolling computer chair, I allow myself to be fully indulged in the large cup of heaven. Cheers to that. With my favorite beverage in hand, the blissful silence envelops me until I am lost in its calming grasp. Dead Man Walking, the ultimate guide to the necromantic world. If I hadn't drained 3 cups of coffee this morning, Jensen's words would have woken me in a flash. I swivel in my chair to find him bent over a second book cart, leafing through a leather-bound book. Impish curiosity flashes across his eyes. Pushing my feet off the Berber carpet, I propel my chair across the floor and snatch the book from his hands. That one wasn't meant for the cart. I peeked down at the page he left off on. He picked a good chapter, though. I hear Circle Consecration is a fascinating read. Jensen waggles his eyebrows. I thought these books were for the library. They are. I set the book cover down beside my keyboard and away from his prying eyes. I'm just reserving it first. A dry laugh leaves his lips as he plops into his own office chair. He reaches for the box of donut holes and pops open the flap. At least I know this is for book research and not my untimely demise. He retrieves 2 cinnamon sugar pastries from their cardboard prison. After this morning, I figured I should bring coffee as a peace offering, just in case. I quirk a brow as he shoves the donut holes in his mouth. What are you talking about? Mouth too full to speak, he rolls his chair close enough to shake my computer mouse. The screen wakes to a sketchy forum, and the title, written bold at the top of the page, makes my heart leap into my throat. How to Commit Murder with Toothpicks. Jensen swallows his mouthful and laughs. With a grin dancing wide across his lips, he leans in close enough for his musky cologne to overpower my senses. You might want to close out your tabs when you walk away. And you might want to quit snooping before I use my research on you. The sound of another person clearing their throat brings my widening eyes to the other side of the circulation desk, where a pregnant, middle-aged woman stands with her daughter. An entertained smile flickers across the 13-year-old's lips as she studies the 2 paperbacks across the counter. Jade! I put on my bravest face and brightest, most innocent voice before turning to the girl's mother. Mrs. Singer, good to see you again. After elbowing Jensen in the ribs to make him slide away, I grabbed the books from the counter and flipped them over. Their worn covers send excitement coursing through my veins. We finished your latest book last night. It's wonderful to have such a creative author right here in Haven. Does Thermes ever become canon? Jade's interruption brings warmth back to my cheeks, spreading quickly to my ears, until I'm sure my entire head is consumed in a ball of flame. A soft laugh from Jensen brings no comfort, and when I fire a pointed glare in his direction, he quickly averts his eyes to his snack. When I turn back around, Jade has leaned so far over the counter that I'm sure the raven-haired girl will fling herself across it in a frenzy for answers. Come on! Jade's dark eyes widen with excitement. I won't tell anyone. It's gotta happen soon, right? Jensen mutters under his breath, just low enough for me to hear. They've only had sexual tension for 4 books. Everyone around me must be able to feel the heat radiating from my skin as I swallow down my mortification. It's in these moments when I wish I could fake a computer crash and call on the head librarian to fix the issue, while I hide in the break room, clutching the cappuccino to my chest. That excuse came to a halt 3 months ago when I took over as Mrs. Prescott's second-in-command. She won't take kindly to my excuses. A writer never reveals her secrets. My voice comes out much higher tone than I expect. You'll find out how Thana and Emrys' stories end when the last book comes out. It'll actually answer everything? Like, everything? I rub the back of my neck. The only thing worse than my coworker whining about my character's lack of intimacy is a theory-loving kid full of questions. What do you mean? I avert my eyes to check the books back into the system. Jade scrunches up her nose. Some of it just doesn't match up. Like Dana's friend Amaya? She's been popping in and out of every book, and we still don't know what she is or why she's there. And if Emrys is a phoenix, why can't Thana touch him? Isn't he, like, immortal? As I struggle to untie the knot constricting my tongue, Mrs. Singer passes me an apologetic smile, but the squeaking of Jensen's chair only furthers my desire to disappear from the conversation. He leans against the desk to rummage through his donut box again with a knowing grin. You will be more than satisfied. Ava's got an incredible ending on her hands. With toothpicks. One swift kick to the shin makes him wince. He shoves the food in his mouth and glowers at me. Doesn't press the subject further. Thankfully, when I turn my attention back to our patrons, the young girl has backed away from the counter with slightly less skepticism in her eyes. Mrs. Singer pats her daughter's shoulder. See, you'll find out the ending soon enough. If she ever puts the book out. Please, Miss Hale, just try to finish it before my baby sister steals all the attention. After a stern glare from her mother, the girl straightens her posture and looks down at the floor. Mrs. Singer mouths a quick, "I'm sorry" to us before we exchange goodbyes. Her sympathetic eyes linger in my memory, even after they scurry off toward the study room. The room relapses into hushed tones, silent except for Jensen sipping his coffee. I try to ignore him staring at my reddening face while I finish checking my novels into the computer. When I set the books off to the side, my eyes linger on the covers bent and cracked from use. I take it the ending isn't going well. I thought there'd be more. It says, like, choices matter, but we haven't made a choice yet. We're, like, 12-ish minutes in. Bringing my fingers to my temples, I massage them slowly to ease their dull throb. If by not going well, you mean me slamming my head against the keyboard hoping it'll produce something better than what I've written, then yeah, I don't think it's going well. As a writer, I feel that deep, deep in my soul. Kinda wondered why you needed that spellbook over there. Jensen nods to the textbook beside my keyboard. Need to revive dead inspiration? I try not to laugh, but his amusement over his own jokes is hard to resist. I wish it was that simple. Jensen pats me on the shoulder. He sneaks a sideways peek into his pastry box, and after brief hesitation, holds it out to offer the last 2 donut holes. I shake my head, and he plucks them out for himself. You're a brilliant writer. I know you'll figure it out, and when you do, I'll be first in line to see how it plays out. Maybe tonight's D&D session will do the trick. Jensen's eyebrows shoot up. For months, he's been avidly asking about the Dungeons & Dragons nights I share with my friends, and every week it's become harder to resist asking him to join the party. But overwhelming him with a long-running campaign was the last thing I wanted to do. Tonight, however, we begin fresh with a new game, a new story. One based in a fictional world he's read through my books. Why don't you join us? His smile turns bashful, and a tinge of red comes to his cheeks. It sounds like fun, but I wouldn't even know where to start. Finally, a choice! Urge him to join. Oh, come on. I nudge him with my elbow. Let your dungeon master show you the ropes. We can create your character together and go over the basics. You know Bobby will help you learn anything on the fly. Jensen laughs at the mention of my longtime best friend. A mixture of sass and sunshine, Bobby has managed to worm her way into his introverted heart. For a man who kept to himself, never mentioning a night out or even friends to spend one with, he could talk to her for hours on runs to her coffee shop, and it often made him late returning from lunch breaks, or more accurately, donut breaks. I'll think about it. He folds his arms seemingly to mull over the invitation. Hitting the basics now would make the rest of our shift go faster. You know what else would do that? He raises an eyebrow. Labeling that second cart. Jensen throws his empty pastry box into the trash can with a huff, but I see the laugh hidden behind his faux annoyance. With a playful push on my shoulder, he makes his way back to the cart, careful not to touch the necromantic tome on his way. The rest of our day is quiet. The library's pace slows to a crawl that allows us to fill the remainder of our day with soft chatter and social media scrolling. I watch the clock with an agonized stare. Only a few more hours. Look at Callie. Flying monkeys? Callie's face scrunches in question. I ignore my best friend's bewilderment, bobbing my head at an alarming rate as I peer over her shoulder. We've been positioned this way in my apartment for the better part of an hour, with Callie hunched over the printed document while I practically perch on her shoulder like an eager parrot. Except it's felt more like a century, maybe even 2 centuries while I wait. Not so patiently for my most trusted beta reader to finish the ending of my latest literary masterpiece. It adds the perfect touch. I leave my spot for the comfort of the neighboring armchair. It's unexpected. When the undead monkeys attack, the guild will have no choice but to side with the necromancers and save Astraela. Astraela. Astraela? Astraela. It's Astraela? I know, I did this at the beginning too. Astraela. Yeah, Astraela. Callie blinks her tired eyes unfocused while they search my expression. It's like she's trying to figure out the punchline of a joke I haven't told. And suddenly, my smile feels much heavier. Eva. She drums her fingers on the armchair. I get where you're coming from. I do. You don't want to catch your readers off guard, but doesn't this idea seem a little out there? Her fingers thud harder against the wood and her gaze falters, but the silly smile stays plastered across my lips. I wait expectantly for affirmation to follow her gentle criticism. Seconds tick by in awkward silence. My facade crumbles, shifting uncomfortably in my seat. I straighten my posture and fight the downturning of my lips. The attempt is in vain, however, and the smile finally falls. Callie leans forward to put her hand on my knee. It's not bad. I just think it could use a little... It's terrible. Standing, I let her hand slip from my knee. I rake my fingers through my hair with a long huff. I've tried everything. What kind of writer am I if I can't come up with a decent ending? Girl. Another uncomfortable pause drops between us, with me continuously stroking my hair and Callie nipping at the dead skin on her lips. Ugh. Our eyes avert to the floor, the wall, the collection of pop culture knickknacks scattered along the shelves of a nearby bookcase. Anything but each other. I swipe at my watering eyes. If it wasn't for the company sitting across from me and the promise of another friend joining us at any moment, I'd race to my room for solitude. The recliner squeaks as Callie stands, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. You have a gift. Her voice has dropped to a softer, more encouraging tone. You'll get this book finished eventually, but you can't settle for any ending that comes along. It has to be the right fit. And what's that? Because I'd really like to know. That's up to you to find. But building up a 5-book war between light and dark and ending it with a peaceful handshake over flying monkeys isn't the ending you're looking for. She's right, and I know it. Lately, it's felt like every word I type is wrong, and writing one paragraph of presentable material is like pushing against a brick wall. Can I just say, this so accurately describes the writing and editing process. First draft, so easy. Going back and making it good, so hard. After multiple attempts, the defeat has settled so deep into my bones that I've nearly resigned myself to never finishing the series. A gentle shoulder squeeze brings my gaze back to Callie's eyes, so plagued with concern that their usual blue has faded to a stormy gray. Maybe you need a break. Change the subject. Yeah, I guess. I reach up and squeeze her hand. Thanks. But as I return to my seat, trying desperately to avoid her all-consuming stare, I find it harder not to run away. Instead, I scour my brain for anything to get the conversation away from myself. So, have you heard anything from your aunt? Callie's body goes rigid, and I already feel bad for bringing it up. She and her family haven't been in contact since she cut off her mother forever ago, even before we met. And we've been friends so long, it's hard to imagine she hasn't always been there. She's never told me much, that her family's overly reclusive, and her relationship with her mother is too strained to reach back out. But a few months back, her long-lost aunt reached out to her. It was the first contact she had with a relative in the years we've known each other. Nothing lately. She doesn't talk much anymore. but she's been in contact with my mom. And if my mom finds out we're talking, that's a mess I don't need on my hands. She's talking to your mom again. Closer than talking. They're practically trapped together right now, ever since my aunt lost her ex-boyfriend. Oh. My heart sinks. I'm sorry. You said they were in a pretty long-term relationship, right? I can't imagine. She laughs. Don't talk like he's dead. He's just off the grid. She wants me to help her track him down, but you've got to meet him. He's different. Not overly bright. I don't really know what she sees in him. A knock at the door. She goes on for a while about how much better her aunt could do than her ex, until 3 sudden knocks throw us back to reality. I'll get it. Callie pats the arm of my chair and walks hurriedly to the other room. Additional company is a welcome change. It'll offer plenty of distraction from myself, and instead, let us begin Dungeons & Dragons session that's bound to help me forget my frustrations. Bobby can be heard long before she's seen, from the pleasant trill of her voice to the audible skip in her step that always creates a stir with the tenants below. She always knows how to make her entrance known. Not that many mind, however. Not when the kind woman radiates glittering beams of the brightest morning sunlight. Eva! Bobby's sing-song tone carries melodically across the room. Though my insides were twisted into a tightly wound ball seconds before, her outstretched arms ease my nerves long enough to share the bear hug my best friend deserves. We stay wrapped up for a moment, swaying back and forth with glee until Bobby disengages and swivels around. Her dark eyes land on the flat, grid-lined board atop the coffee table. She bends down to survey the small boxes beneath where the miniature characters, monster figurines, and various campaign materials are organized in perfect rows. Tabletop role-playing games have long been a favorite of ours, and pride swells in my chest at Bobby's approval of the night's setup. She takes an extra long gander at the mop lying open on top of the colorful grid. You went all out tonight. I'm impressed. Callie pokes her head over our friend's shoulder for a better look. She learned from the best, Bobs. Bobby swats at her playfully. Of course she did. I trained my up-and-coming game masters well. My nerves calm as I watch them examine the props laid out for the campaign. For the first time tonight, a genuine smile crosses my lips, while they theorize about lore and fawn over the hand-painted miniatures of their characters. Even Callie's enthusiasm, usually muted beneath layers of cynicism and a sarcastic tone, bubbles over the edge. Is this everyone? Yep. Looks like you two have the campaign to yourselves. Hold up. Bobby raises a finger in question. Didn't you invite Jensen? You were just telling me how fascinated he is over the game. Trying to ignore the heat flaring up my neck, I try to avert my eyes, but her all-knowing grin pulls me in like a sailor to her siren song. Bobby's relentless stare is matched with an all-knowing grin. They said that twice. If I didn't know better, I'd swear you're disappointed. Here we go. I thought it'd be fun. I find myself unable to look directly at either of my friends. He's a great guy, but he doesn't seem to have anyone to hang out with when he leaves work. Just thought this would give him some company. Bobby's gaze is searing. As the oldest member of our group, she's been around the block enough times, whether in relationships or most other parts of life I've yet to experience, and words alone are never enough to fool her. Yet, for some god-forsaken reason, I've never stopped trying. What? My blush rises no matter how hard I try to suppress it. When Bobby's grin stretches wider, I know it's all over. Oh, hon, it wasn't just a kind thought, and you know it. I don't know what Don't stand there like you're innocent. Bobby wags a finger in my direction. You two stop by my coffee shop every day without fail. That man knows how to order your perfect brew based on the day, your mood, the phase of the moon. Don't try to tell me he isn't someone special. I gnaw on my lip until the taste of blood hits my tongue. I quickly glance over to Callie, hoping to find assistance with at least one person in the room. She only shakes her head and laughs. It's nice to know I can only count on myself in moments of sheer awkwardness. Jensen's a great guy. He's just not my type. Is he really not your type, or is it because his name isn't Emerus? If my cheeks don't stop trying to burst into flames, I'll be reduced to a steaming puddle before the night is over. Okay. I clap my hands, stepping around my friends to put myself between them and the coffee table. We better get this game rolling, or else we'll still be playing when... Someone knocks at my front door, so soft that I almost don't hear them. I startle, and the girls watch me like I've lost my mind until the knocks begin again. This time they're louder, but much more hesitant. I'll be right back. Hopefully the neighbors aren't actually complaining about Bobby skipping above their heads. Another knock pounds as I cross the room, and when I open the door just wide enough to see outside, my heart stops. Jensen? He stands in the hallway, bearing a bashful smile, a binder pressed against his chest, and a small drawstring bag that makes the familiar click-clack of dice. A toy sword's plastic hilt is tucked under his arm, and he nearly falls before he can readjust it. I hope I'm not too late. No, never. I pull the door open wider. Come inside. The moment I glance back into the other room, Callie and Bobby's grin send my heart into a nervous frenzy. This isn't going to end well. While I try to ignore them, the persistence of their stares is overwhelming. I force myself to look away. So, Jensen, do you still need help with your character? Maybe. He tilts his head. I'm not sure. I found this pre-made thing online, and I think it's pretty cool. As I lead him into the living room, he greets the girls with a shy wave of his dice bag. I pass them a knowing look. Can you give us a sec? I want to make sure he's ready. The girls smirk at each other, and Bobby bites back a laugh. Sure thing. You two enjoy yourselves. With a nudge and a wink, she steers Callie toward the kitchen, but their lighthearted snickers linger. I turn back to Jensen, who seems more nervous without their presence. He fidgets with his dice bag, wrapping and unwrapping the drawstring around his finger, as his gaze periodically flicks in the direction of the girls the girls went. I pray they've stayed gone and aren't peeking inconspicuously around the corners. I motion to the love seat, and Jensen and I take a seat together. Slowly, he sets things in his lap and pulls out his binder. Loose pages covered in a rainbow of highlighted text nearly fall from the interior pouches. For someone walking in on a moment's notice, he's incredibly prepared. Still, he flips the dice bag from hand to hand with a rhythmic click-clack. I nod to his binder. What have you created? A spell person? A goblin. He sets his drawstring bag between us, and I open his binder. Takes multiple flips through the printed pages of notes and handwritten scribbles before he finds a pre-made character sheet. She's a necromancer. I thought that might spice things up with your lore. I start to laugh, but it takes me a moment to register what he's saying. A necromancer? I mean, it's perfect, but there isn't a class for that in this module. I had to custom build one for my NPCs. As I peer over his shoulder for a better look at his sheet, I recognize the formatting instantly. This is a different tabletop game, Jens. His cheeks flush. I could have sworn I picked the right one. Okay, we'll build you a new one. Shouldn't be too hard to convert over. May I? I hold up my hand, and he unclips the binder to give me his sheet. As I lean down to open my own binder on the coffee table, I hear him fidgeting with his bag once more. It isn't long before his hands are beside mine at the table, setting down a plethora of dice. They're mostly six-sided, but since I have plenty of others to loan out, and he's still red-faced from his character sheet error, I say nothing as he begins stacking them nervously in small towers. By the time I've located my notes for my custom-build necromancer class, I realize the sound of his dice is no longer present. I turn to find his hand hovering over his four-tiered tower. A faraway look has taken over his face, and his brow crinkles. Are you okay? Jensen blinks. He looks like he's about to say something, but before any words can come out, he stands. With a hasty sigh, he begins throwing his dice back in the bag. Yeah, He stumbles over his tongue for a moment. I think I had some bad burritos. I really need to go. Do you need to use my bathroom? It's right down the hall. No, please, it's okay. He grabs his bag, his binder, and the toy sword that's clattered to the floor in his scramble. I should just go. You guys have fun, okay? Jensen takes off, half sprinting to the door before I can even get off the couch. Feels like my heart is running off with him. And I stand, waving his character sheet. Do you want your sheet? I'll get it from you at work. I don't have time to utter a coherent response before he's out the door. My chest feels like it's caving in, and it's all I can do not to follow him. Thankfully, before I have the chance to attempt a chase down, Bobby peeks around the kitchen archway. Her once giddy smile has fallen. What happened? I don't know, I want to say, but the words refuse to leave. I stare at the front door as if it will somehow make Jensen walk back inside, but it doesn't. I guess he's not feeling well, I say finally. I don't believe myself, or Jensen for that matter, but I try to force a smile anyway. Bobby sees through it. She rushes back in with Callie in tow. When I turn to her, I shake my head before she can offer her usual hug. It's fine, really. Let's start, okay? I sit back down, not giving them a chance to respond while I fan through my pages of notes. Carefully, I tuck Jensen's character sheet near the back. I'll work on it later. Maybe on a night with proper preparation and no embarrassment on his end, he'll stay. At least that's what I tell myself. From the corner of my eye, I notice Callie and Bobby share a concerned look before seating themselves around the table. As they ready themselves for the game ahead, pulling out their own character sheets and snacks from their bags, I take a deep, calming breath. It's just another story you're just writing out loud. Surely it can't be much different, since the campaign's tailored around the one story I can tell in a heartbeat. My own. It's a trial run, meant to test a fully customizable game based on the book series, and donned with the same name, The Keepers of Astraela. Astraela! And, providing I succeed in bringing the story to life on a battle map, the game will eventually grace my blog for readers to enjoy. Once my friends settle, I snag my notebook from under the table and stand. Public speaking is a familiar task in my line of work, but the curious stares of my companions make the nerves swirl faster in my chest. Welcome, dear travelers, to the land of Astraela. Yes. My voice comes out clearer and stronger than I expect, as my instincts break through the sudden stage fright. For centuries, common folk have entrusted their protection to the Luxanima Guild, a league of warriors tasked by the kind to rid the land of evil. Okay, that's a weird sentence. Callie's already at work, hastily jotting down her every word in her leather-bound journal. Bobby scoots to the edge of her chair with a proud smile that makes my lingering nerves dissipate. Since the dawn of civilization, necromancy has been considered the darkest form of magic. The guild has taken pride in executing camps of necromancers, leaving nothing but ash and screams on the wind. Nothing usable for reanimation by any others of their kind. Despite their efforts, a new foe has risen, a darkness unseen by man since the day heaven and hell were separated. While many believe this is the necromancer's plot to grasp the powers of hell and seek revenge on the guild, you do not. Even the sound of Callie's pencil scraping against paper stops at my words. I can hardly contain the excitement swelling inside my chest. You believe the only way to banish the darkness is by finding someone with the power to control it. You are traveling across the land in search of the pair of legends, Thana, a necromancer kissed by the Reaper's touch, with the power of death and resurrection at her fingertips. And her companion, Emerus, a dark phoenix risen from the ashes to help extinguish the dark plague. Only once your heroes are found, all around flashing lights add to the ambiance, causing Callie and Bobby to sit up in attention. I pause, fingers gripping the edges of my notebook. We can still play without electricity, but the last thing I need to deal with is another outage. It's been an ongoing issue for far too long, ever since the storm that battered the town's park months ago. Shaking my head, I glance back at my notes, but the ongoing flashes and beeps from various electronics keep me from continuing, until a series of loud, slow, robotic tones emanate from Bobby's back pocket. Eyes widening, she scrambles to grab her phone. Her jaw goes slack at the lit-up screen, and she jumps to her feet, expression wild with panic. What's wrong? Bobby shakes her head, sending a cascade of curls in every direction. It's my security system. The color drains from my face until I nearly match Callie's pale hue. I drop the notebook into my lap. For the coffee shop? Bobby nods, snatching her bag from the floor and slinging it over her shoulder. Someone's trying to break in. Go with Bobby. As Bobby starts to retreat, I grab her arm. She turns back to me with reddening eyes. You shouldn't go alone. The police will be there, Eva. I'll be fine. I stare her down until she stops. Physical safety aside, I can't stand the thought of my friend facing something like this alone. Her life's work has gone into the coffee shop. If someone's broken in, please. Bobby is silent for a moment, but finally nods. She turns to Callie, who has, somehow, gone even more pale. I can hold down the fort here. Just go, and text me what you find out, okay? With a quick nod, Bobby uses my hand on her arm to her advantage. Before I know it, she's dragged me to the door, car keys in hand, and we leave. We arrive at the coffee shop to a multitude of flashing lights. Emergency services line the center of the street, blocking the way to the coffee shop. Bobby parks just beyond the barricades, and even from so far away, I can make out shards of glass glittering in the red and blue flashes. There's no reflection in the front display window, and the thought of it being smashed to hell makes me ill. The downpour has grown heavier, nearly drowning out the hammering of my heart, but it doesn't drown out Bobby's shuddering breaths. Oh my God. We scramble out of the car and down the sidewalk as fast as our legs can carry us. My thoughts whir a mile a minute. If someone's been inside the coffee shop, what's happened to Bobby's upstairs apartment? It was more than a business. It was her home. An officer stands beside one of the street lamps, and the moment he sees us, he steps in our way. Ladies, this is an active crime scene. I need you to turn around. Bobby nearly runs into him before she screeches to a halt. She begins scrambling for the wallet from her bag. My name's Bobby Michelin. This is my shop, my home. Wallet in hand, she tries to flash her ID and push past the officer, but he stops her before she can charge. I'm sorry, ma'am. You can't go inside. The officer's voice drones on, but the sound becomes muddled in the background, intermixed with the scratching of staticky radios and murmurs from other emergency personnel. The bitter rain chills me to the bone. I'm not sure how long it's been before Bobby huddles closer to my side and links her arm with mine. Together we watch officers and EMTs fly to and fro like frantic chickens. They can't tell me anything yet, but I can't go home. Not till they've finished. Offer comfort. I'm so sorry, Bobs. Bobby wipes a tear. I'll give Iris a call. See if she's up for company tonight. I nod. Iris and Bobby have been dating for months, and I know she'll help Bobby through the night, especially when proper words of comfort have refused to surface in my brain. Come on, I'll take you back home. Silently, we head back to the car. Any other night, the rhythmic patter of rain against the roof would be calming, but they only weigh down my nervous heart. As Bobby pulls away from the curb, I can't take my eyes off the scene. And just before she turns, before I'm forced to lose sight of the lights and the chaos, I swear I see a body bag being wheeled out of the shop. That wasn't what I expected. An excerpt from Untitled Manuscript. The Keepers of Astraela, Book 5, by Evanescence Hale. I don't like Evanescence as her name. Maybe it's a pen name. Even the sky was silent. On an average night, the Astraelan sky would be alive with a luminous wash of purples and blues, only interrupted by white pinpricks of stars and the overhanging moon. Thana recalled many nights under Linux's glow in various burial grounds, as Astraela's brightest moon lit her rituals enough to see without assistance. It had always brought her peace. She wished she had appreciated it when she had the chance. Now the sky was so void of life that even the stars had run away. An endless abyss reigned in its place, a deafening sign of the world's corruption. The sight made her shiver harder than any nippy midnight breeze. She pulled her arms tightly across her chest and shifted forward on the log she had perched upon, inching closer to the dwindling campfire. Footsteps crunched in the ankle-deep snow from the direction of her camp. She pulled her eyes from the sky to meet the concerned gaze of a man approaching with a wool blanket folded in his arms. Emerus, what are you still doing up? Emerus paused, drawing his lower lip between his teeth. Even from yards away, the dark circles under his eyes dulled the honey shade of his iris. His raven hair differed enough from the forest shadow that she noticed it tousled in every direction, as if he had resorted to rubbing his head against a pillow instead of sleeping on it. You look cold. Not all of us can change our body temperature at will. A slight glimmer rose in Emerus's eyes as he laughed in a tone that deepened from exhaustion. I thought I'd help with that. As he stepped closer, his irises brightened to a glowing amber. The crunch of his boots subsided as the snow melted beneath his feet. Warmth radiated from his body when he sat beside her, doing more to alleviate her shivering than the fire had when it roared at its fullest. Emerus set the blanket between them, and she shivered gratefully. She draped it across her shoulders, leaving enough on the side for her friend to lay his hand upon. The moment his skin brushed the material, heat enveloped its surface. She relaxed into its embrace, not minding the nippy wind that grazed her reddened cheeks. I thought you were going to bed early, too. Emerus's eyes wandered across her tired features. You'll need to be on top of your game for tomorrow. While she tried to conceal the emotion, she couldn't fight the pressure forming behind her eyes. Maybe it was the lack of the sleep that crumbled her well-constructed walls. That's what she kept telling herself anyway. It was then that she noticed the sweat on the back of her neck. The blanket had become much warmer than before, and she turned to find that Emerus had moved closer. A small realm of safety rested between their arms, which were mere inches from contact. Thana wanted to move away. It was the smartest decision, but for the first time, she didn't. Instead, she smiled, enjoying the closeness of the man she'd grown so fond of in their years together. I wanted to take in the night. It's actually quite beautiful, says the woman who makes fun of me for wandering the woods after dark. Thana feigned offense with a slack jaw, but the grin on his lips was too powerful to resist. Of all the things she's noticed, the true beauty of that night, the man beside her was the finest example. I've never understood you. You're immortal. You have eons to enjoy the world around you. Yet you never take it for granted. I've never met anyone with such an appreciation for life as you. She turned to face the sky again, searching. A foolish part of her wanted, no, needed, to find life in its void, but she was met with the same emptiness. The pressure behind her eyes strengthened until she felt moisture pooling from her tear ducts. Though she tried to blink the feeling away, her tears broke free and slipped down her cheeks. Knowing that you could die at any moment puts things into perspective. Thana wiped her face with the edge of her blanket. I want to take it all in before I'm gone. The crickets, the grass rustling in the wind, the crackling of our fire, every bit of it. When she turned, the smile had vanished from her friend's face, overtaken by worry lines and a dimming light in his eyes. Even with his touch, the blanket grew colder. You aren't going to die. You're a hero. Thana took a deep, shuddering breath. I'm a scared little girl in an army of outcasts. We're not all going to walk out of this alive. While Emerus nodded, she knew it was out of courtesy. It wasn't only her feeling unease about the growing peril of the circumstances. She had watched anxiety build in him the past few weeks, from his stiffening posture at the smallest noise to the way he stood just a few inches closer, as if he could single-handedly protect her from whatever lay across their path. He was terrified of the unknown, of losing her, just as she was afraid of losing him. Thana. She tilted her head at his words. A wave of midnight hair spilled across her shoulder, rippling in the soft breeze. If anything happens, I want you to know how grateful I am to have been at your side all these years. When Thana saw his own tears glistening in the firelight, she wanted nothing more than to sell her soul for the chance to wipe them away, to feel the softness of his skin against her fingers, just one time. Out of every experience she would miss if she were pulled away from him, that would be the one she regretted most. I couldn't have asked for anyone better. Her words were so thick with emotion that she could hardly utter them, but Emerus seemed to hear them with clarity, A wavering smile cracked through his emotion. They remained there for a moment, eyes locked as if it were the last chance they had to connect in such a way, staring into each other's souls until they could nearly hear one another's thoughts. It was these moments that the inches between them felt like miles. They could never be closer. As much as Thana wanted to believe he was truly immortal, the Reaper's touch was too great a risk. If anything happens, there's something you should know as well. Emrys nodded in silence. Thana could hardly stand the sight of his dimming eyes as the blanket across her shoulders grew frigid. It was time. More than time. He had strolled by her side for years with nothing more than food, shelter, and a simple thank you. Despite every unfortunate circumstance she had unknowingly dragged him into, he had been the only person to never abandon hope. He had stayed beside her with a smile on his face and endless kind words to nourish her soul. Thana had fought herself for so long, not wanting to release these words. But how much longer would she have the opportunity? When would her last chance pass them by? Thana gazed deeper into his eyes, holding on to what little color remained in them. I love you. Dreams are finicky. Some nights they come easily, invading your subconscious when you'd rather be lost to sleep's silent abyss. And on others, they must be pried carefully from the depths of your mind with grand offerings. Tonight, I have everything I need to dream. Or so I hope. My wooden desk is littered with all the items I know will invoke something in my sleep. Warm apple cider, a vanilla spice candle, the soft sounds of a campfire crackling from my laptop speakers. Even the rain pattering against my bedroom window adds the perfect inspirational ambiance. For the past few hours, I've made every attempt to distract myself from the shattered remains of Bobby's shop. It feels like I've pored over the rough draft of my novel for centuries, saturating my mind with all the story has to offer. Instead of blood and glass, the characters are sure to be what waits in the void when I drift off to sleep, ready to pick up anew where I last left them. The last scene before my dreams stopped. It's a sweet moment between Thana and Emrys, to be sure, a fan favorite once the book is ready for consumption. Despite my annoyance at the library this morning, Jade and Jensen have a point. The characters have been dropping hints about their feelings for far too long. Even if the rest of the novel hasn't lived up to my expectation, I'm certain that moment will bring readers satisfaction. They've been waiting forever for their heroes to confess affection for one another. Almost as long as myself. It's been years since I first met them, but the dream sticks vividly in my memory. At first I assumed I was dreaming about myself, walking down the cobblestone streets of an old trade town, cautiously watching my back as I waved through clusters of townsfolk. I'd been eyeing the tavern sign at the end of the street since my subconscious dropped me in the fantastical setting, watching the crowds file through the door to abandon the nippy evening air. Standing on the front deck, a young man waved frantically in my direction, calling an unfamiliar name. Thana. He was certainly directing the name at me, which became more apparent when my dream self threw out a sarcastic remark about him running off ahead again. The scene sweetened as I joined the man, who I learned was named Emrys, in the tavern for dinner, cozied up in a corner booth and watching the blitzed patrons around us. Humans and creatures from all walks of life laughed together, enjoying drinks and enchanted herbal rolls. Humans and creatures from all walks of life laughed together, enjoying their drinks and enchanted herbal rolls that filled the bar with a smoky haze. I was picturing a roll like bread, so I was confused. But I mean like a rolled cigarette. It wasn't an out-of-the-ordinary dream, not after one of my first Dungeon Dragon sessions with the girls, until I, or Thana, bumped into the drunken dwarf from the next table over. It happened in the blink of an eye. I stood too quickly, and the dwarf stumbled too clumsily, ending in a collision that anyone else would have brushed off with a laugh. But the second my fingers grazed his arms, his eyes faded to a steely gray that stared blankly into my soul. He clutched his chest, gasping for air he couldn't retrieve. Hardly a moment passed before he fell to the floor, dead. It was my first introduction to the Reaper's touch, a profane curse bound to Thana's skin. All right, guys. We are going to call it right here. We've played our hour. Hello? Can we not save? Yes. There we go. We've played our hour. I am actually enjoying it. I love a visual novel. Again, I think they're really fun to play. I don't know if you think they're fun to watch. If you like it and you want to see more, let me know. We can maybe revisit the rest of the demo. I'm not sure how long it is. But my time with it has ended. Does it say? It doesn't say. You actually just read 150,000 plus word count. It doesn't actually say how long it is. I want to put this on my wish list. Steam says, "Is this game relevant to you? It doesn't look like something you like. I'm like, wait, no, I do like it. It doesn't say how long it is. It says there's 150,000 words, but I don't know if that's in the demo or if that's in the whole game. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, thanks so much for hanging out with me. Again, my name is Mandy Lee. I am one half of Casa Fortis. Casa Fortis does all kinds of cool, fun, creative things. Today, we played Keepers of Astraela, a visual novel dating game fantasy mystery. It was super fun. If you want to check out more Casa Fortis items, you can do all kinds of things. I'm only one half of Casa Fortis. I am the face. But we do all kinds of really fun things. So we have First Impression Fridays every Friday here, just like this one. You can also catch us on Twitch live on Fridays from 6 to 8, Saturdays and Sundays from 4 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. You can check out additional gameplay on Mondays right here on YouTube for Fields of Mystria, as well as replays of our streams. Words are hard. I told y'all, my brain is mush today. Thanks so much for hanging out in the casa and being part of the Capybara crew. Some other ways you can help support us is to like and follow us on all of our socials. Links in the doobly-doo. You could also check out our merch shop. There's Capybara crew merch and a bunch of other great designs, all made by yours truly. You could also purchase my book, available on Amazon in paperback or on Kindle. If you're part of Kindle Unlimited, you could even read it for free. Thanks so much for hanging out with me this Friday, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.